how should people find these investments? These are 5 or 6B most of the time. I mean, investments where there's a personal relationship and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How do you help them to find you or others, for that matter, good investments? What should be their approach?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna dig right into that to kind of respond to your long working hours and things. One of the reasons that I was inspired to get into the real estate industry and business and help people passively invest is because I come from a family of very hard workers. My parents work very hard. My dad is actually in IT, and I watched my parents go through the Great Recession many years ago. I was in college at the time,
Mhm.
and my dad was, working. He went from working 10 hours a day, under pre-Great Recession conditions to working all the time. I mean, he might have slept 4 hours a night at the most, but other than that, he was working all the time trying to keep his job because they were firing everybody. And
Mhm.
here we are, in 2022, and he still works hard all the time. And my goal in this business is really being inspired by watching them, but also how can I help other people invest in this space too? So I've seen that firsthand. I so that's why I got into this. But anyway, to address your question about how to find people to invest with, I mean, it's a big question, right? And it's not something that is as easy as go to Google, punch in who can I passively invest in real estate with, and then go invest with them. That would just be reckless, frankly.
Yeah.
Doing your due diligence, finding the right people is important. Now, there are things like this podcast that your listeners are listening to right now, listening to us. Now, just because you heard us on a podcast does not mean you should go and invest with us or anybody else that you hear on a podcast, but it's a jumping off point. Go and learn more about the people that you're hearing on podcasts, for example. Again, being a jumping off point. Google them, look up their companies, see if you can find organic references. Can you find somebody that's invested with them before and learn about their experience? Can you look up their profile? Those kinds of things. Do that due diligence. But so, first, the most important thing is to understand the ethics and the reputation and the experience of the person who is arranging a deal. That's critical. Next comes evaluating the deal, and that is complicated as well, right? And this is where education comes into play. And I, again, props. I love my books. This is another one of my favorite books, What Every Real Estate Investor Needs to Know About Cash Flow and 36 Other Key Financial Measures by Frank Gallinelli. For the number nerds out there like me, this one will, you know, satisfy you. And it's sorry, I'm banging my mic here. It's not a very long book. You can see it's pretty thin, but it does get into the weeds on underwriting. And that
Uh-huh.
will teach you how the numbers work. You don't need to know how it all works, but the responsible thing to do, in my opinion, is to at least understand how it works and know how to check the math.
Right.
Because again, we want to, if you're passively investing with somebody in a particular deal, you have to do your research. I understand people are busy, but and the goal is to passively invest so that you're not involved in the back end. But personally, in my passive investments with some operators, it took time to get here, but I'm now at the point where these operators that I invest with, I'm in. They send me a deal. Of course I look at it, but I know them, I know their experience. I'm going to evaluate the deal to see if it's a yes or no, but it's probably going to be a yes because I know them and their experience and reputation. I've invested with them before. There's a lot of check. So there's a lot of these things that you have to do consistently over time. But once you do them, you get more experience with them, you get more comfortable, and you build up experience with these sponsors. It just becomes so much more fluid. So there will be time investment on the front end to find the people to do deals with, but on the back end, you'll be glad you did, and you'll get a lot faster at it too.